Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Thank you for joining me again today. I apologize ahead of time if I start talking really fast. I don't know what it is. Maybe I had too much caffeine or sugar today, but I'm a little wired. Um, but we'll make do. I want to take a moment though to thank everyone again who joined me last episode for the mental health roundtable. I definitely enjoyed it. It was pretty exciting and fun to be able to get together with everyone and just have those open conversations about self-care, understanding more about what we all have been experiencing or have experienced in the past as far as burnout is concerned, how that relates back into vicarious trauma, and yes, even compassion fatigue, and getting a little bit of feedback as well, about what people are doing, what they're finding that's working, and also what they're finding that's not working. I always welcome hearing those kind of comments as well, because it's important to know, are there things that are going on that still need to change and still need to improve? And I think what we can all agree that self-care and mental health definitely is something that we always need to be continuing to work on and continue to improve. With this month being Mental Health Awareness Month, we are going to have another roundtable on May 24th. If any of you listeners would like to join us, I do have an invite listed on my Facebook as well as my Instagram that you can purchase a free ticket on there and be able to join the next group of roundtables. Some of the people who were with us last time have already signed up and will be joining us again. But again, I always welcome new faces and new opinions and voices as we talk about what it's like working and surviving in this field. And well, no, you know what? Not just surviving, thriving in this field as well. This month's roundtable topic will focus specifically on stigma in mental health. And oftentimes, when we hear about stigma, we hear about the stigma that other people have towards individuals with mental health illnesses. Well, I want to switch that focus to talking about the stigma that we as providers face. I don't know about you all, but I've experienced that quite a bit off and on throughout my career, whether it's through people that I meet in the community, whether it's even among my own friends and family. And we also have some stigma against ourselves as providers in this field. And some of the fear that sometimes we face of being able to speak up and ask for help, or kind of do our own self-care for how we may be perceived by other professionals in this field, or even by the community or the members that we serve, when we say that, hey, we struggle too. So really kind of taking that opportunity to explore the stigma that we face as mental health care workers, and kind of exploring also, what do we do about it? And how does that continue to impact our self-care? And also, how can self-care improve our ability to manage that stigma that we may be dealing with? As we move into today's topic, I also just wanted to let you all know, if you haven't seen it already, that I'm taking some of the mindfulness and meditation exercises that we've done in previous episodes and turning them into their own guided meditations, guided mindfulness activities that you can be able to access individually, one by one, rather than having to go back and scroll through all the different podcasts and find the one that you're specifically looking for. And the reason why I wanted to do that was, one, so that you have the opportunity to engage in self-care throughout your day, but also to tie it into today's topic. We're going to take a little bit of a step back and just focus in on the importance of caring for yourself. As I mentioned earlier, and as probably you all are aware of working in this field, this is Mental Health Awareness Month. And although, we spend a lot of time this month talking about mental health awareness as it relates to the work that we do, we also need to make sure that we are spending time focusing on our own mental health, focusing on our own wellness. And I wanted to take that opportunity today to add some additional exercises, mindfulness meditation, and just kind of somatic exercises as well, that you can do to make sure that you're spending some time focusing on caring for yourself throughout your day. As I've mentioned in multiple episodes, as we've talked about, and it was reiterated also in the last roundtable, is self-care is not just these big events that you plan for when you get off work or for your weekend, or this big, I'm going to go on vacation, I'm going to go get a massage, I'm going to go get a mani pedi, whatever those things are. True self-care, the self-care that is going to help you manage burnout, reduce the impacts of vicarious trauma and compassion fatigue, are the little things that you do all throughout your day, even if it only takes a minute. Something that you do to help yourself, care for yourself, refocus. So let's start off talking about just simple movement. Why is movement important? Well, we know as more and more research kind of comes out about this topic in regards to somatic exercises, especially in the discussion of the treatment of trauma, is that movement helps to re-regulate our system. Some movements are just about kind of resetting that fight or flight. Others are going to go a little bit deeper within to our, central nervous system and kind of help rewire some of the different things that are going on. We talk about how certain movement may stimulate the vagus nerve and what that does to help with emotional regulation. Some movement is just soothing, right? When we talk about stemming movements that people with autism will do and how that is soothing to them, well, a lot of those stemming movements are things that we do kind of subconsciously ourselves when we need that extra little boost of just some self-soothing, some self-care. So, movement throughout our day is going to be very important. And as you think about it, there isn't a whole lot of movement that typically goes on throughout our day. And I know that may not be the case for all of you. Those of you that are out and about within the community, you may be getting up and traveling from one place to another all the time. But you're still pretty much mostly sedentary throughout your day, whether it's as you're sitting in your car driving from one client house to another and then sitting in the homes with a client. There's not a whole lot of us, unless you work in like a group home or a psychiatric hospital or facility, where you're constantly moving around and doing that. The rest of us, as we're doing individual sessions or even kind of meeting with families, we're sitting as we're doing that. If you're working a lot of telehealth, there's not really even a reason to get up at all. You just kind of close off your telehealth session and you log on to the next one. Even when you do get up, for those of you that may still see clients in office, the most movement that you do is walking from your office to the waiting room. And for some of us, that may not be a very far jaunt. For me, I have to walk from one building to the next, so I get a little bit more of that. But I don't see clients very often anymore. Most of my work is supervision, and everybody comes to me. So, what are you doing to incorporate movement throughout your day? Now, does that mean that you have to get up and take a walk? No. You can do some simple stretches just sitting there at your desk. And I'm not going to go into a whole bunch of different exercises here today. I do encourage, if you want to look at some of them, I do have some of the trauma informed yoga poses. They're just kind of looking at one card at a time and exploring different poses that kind of get your body flowing and get some of that movement going within there. But I do want to share one kind of activity to you today, just kind of basic office yoga that really helps to just stretch your body and give an opportunity to get rid of some of those cramps that may be developing, get rid of some of those tense muscles that are going, and at the same time, open up that cramped and tensed mind that has been developed as you move from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next, without a whole lot of breaks in between. You will begin to notice as you incorporate more movement throughout the day that your body will start flowing a little bit better. You'll start to physically feel better, which then, of course, as we all know, we are professionals in this field, is going to help your mind function better. You'll notice new insights. You'll notice a new or renewed ability to focus and pay attention to the clients as you're working with them. And kind of just all this mental energy is also going to follow along with having the physical energy going on with your body. So all of it can just basically start with a little gentle movement in between your clients. So, what I recommend that you do and invite you to try is notice the sensations when you move from a seated position to standing. As you stand, breathe into your belly and then try standing by stretching as tall as you can. So think about, sometimes when we see little kids after they've been sitting for a while and they just kind of really get into this big old stretch and like their arms are up high over their head and maybe they kind of lean back a little bit and doing that and they really get into it, and then we hear all those cracking and popping and those things pop back into place. It might be similar, what you do and when you first wake up in the morning and give that good stretch as you get out of bed. Well, do that as you are standing up from being seated at your desk for a long period of time. So again, just breathe into your belly, standing and stretching as tall as you can. And while you just gently hold your breath within the stretch, notice the feel of the stretch in your entire body. Notice any new sensations that may come in there. And if you can hold your breath for a little bit longer, maybe you may even explore kind of extending that stretch a little bit. Again, kind of gently leaning back a little bit farther. If you're thinking about a yoga pose, we would call this extended mountain. Or maybe you kind of extend one arm a little bit farther and then you go ahead and do that with the other arm, just kind of getting a little bit of a bilateral stretch going along with there. And then finally, you're going to release your breath and lower your arms slowly on the exhale. So just kind of a reminder too, as we know from breathing exercises, we want to breathe in through and kind of slowly breathe in, hold for a bit, and explore a little bit of that additional stretching if you want, but have that nice slow exhale to really kind of get that old nasty carbon dioxide out of our body. Now, once you've completed your exhale, just go ahead and stand for a moment and notice the changes that you feel in your body. Notice any changes in sensations, any changes in emotions, changes in thoughts, any changes in energy level, whatever you kind of see as being different from when you first stood up. Just give yourself a moment to do that, and then go ahead and sit back down and notice any sensations of movement once more. And from here, then you can go ahead and set your mind to the next task at hand. Now, if you are doing this right before you go walking out your door to go get a new client, just take that moment as you sit back down and take a good deep cleansing breath, stand up once more, maybe give another quick stretch, and then go ahead and move into the waiting room. And then once again, after you're done with that walk from the waiting room back to your desk, again, as you sit back down, again, just notice the difference in the sensations that you may feel. Maybe you've got a little bit of a tingling energy going on within your legs because you kind of just really, truly got the move being from there. Maybe you're noticing your heart rate has kicked up a little bit. But again, just take that time to move and be mindful while you're moving. This next exercise comes from the anti-burnout card deck that we've mentioned multiple times throughout this podcast, and it's called Walking the High Wire. So let me go ahead and share this with you. We don't move much about in our work. Right? We've already talked about that. Beyond a frantic run out the door between clients. But movement can allow us to re-embody ourselves and become more present for ourselves and our clients. The next day you find yourself hurried or stressed, feel your feet as you walk in the hallway or waiting room between clients. Allow your breath to anchor your step, intentionally dropping in to connect with the sensations in your feet. Experiment with maintaining this focus even as you walk your next client back to the office and settle into your chair. Check in with your feet every so often if you find your mind wandering. And then take the opportunity to really notice if the experience is different after challenging clients or during different times during the day. So again, just kind of grounding yourself as you're paying attention to your feet as you're walking, and then kind of regrounding yourself by checking in with your feet every so often throughout your sessions with your members. So walking the high wire. The next exercise is really kind of, well, it's not a movement exercise, but it is kind of talking about looking things from a fresher perspective by doing a looking practice. So it's movement within our eyes. And recognizing that sometimes when we're a little too close to something, or sometimes when we're kind of getting that little bit of distracted sense, we may miss something new or different. We may miss things that are kind of happening right in front of us. So, this little looking practice can help open us up to what we might have missed, to things that might be happening that we haven't really noticed, and can also open us to new perspectives towards our clients and towards ourselves. So this is really kind of taking the opportunity by, as you're maybe in a session, or even if you just kind of need that time again to just kind of step back, get away from something for a minute and get a fresher perspective. But by taking a look out your window, if you're lucky to have a window, I don't, I work in a cave. Um, so if you don't have a window, looking at an object or a picture in your office, and just noticing for yourself what looks different. What changes can you see as you look at this object or the picture or out your window? What do you notice that perhaps you haven't seen before? Now just give yourself an opportunity to kind of do that. Then shift your gaze to something else in your office, or from outside of the window back into your office, and just take a look around and notice what may be different today. Is there something that has kind of moved within your office? Um, or, if this is the office where you sat for countless hours, is there something in there that you never noticed before? And then lastly, shift your gaze towards yourself or towards your client. And then notice what's different today about whether it's you or your client that you may be looking at. Or what can you see now that you haven't really looked at or seen before? So giving a little bit of that eye movement, allowing yourself again to ground yourself within the moment simply by observing. Let's talk now with our next couple activities about breathing. I always find it interesting. We talk a lot about breathing exercises with our members, but there's a lot of us that aren't really good at doing breathing exercises ourselves. And we even know, as we talk about this with clients and the psychoeducation we may be providing about this, is that we don't breathe very well. We get stuck in just kind of that rote breathing, that normal, natural breathing, but it's not enough to really kind of help to relax or reset or refocus the body. Now, breathing can even be energizing depending on how you do it. So, these next two exercises are going to be exercises around the breath. The first one is enlivening the breath. This is again another exercise from the anti-burnout card deck. So, reading directly from the card, it can be all too easy in session to lose touch with the breath, the moment, and what's actually happening emotionally. Our breath can be our emotional barometer when we are lost, and can become our GPS, guiding us back to the present moment. And just as it says, oftentimes when we talk about meditation with clients or being mindful, we talk about using the breath as the anchor. So being able to have that opportunity to tune back into our own breathing so that we can help kind of, again, take care of ourselves and be present in the moment. So enlivening the breath is a simple practice to recover the breath and recover the moment. To reconnect, go ahead and place one hand on your chest and the other just below the belly button. Use your hands to feel yourself breathing in, lengthening head to toe as you do so, and imagining the space inside expanding as you breathe in. Then putting hands on either side of your rib cage, literally feeling the chest expand from side to side with each breath. Lastly, you're going to place one hand on your belly button and the other hand on the small of your back, feeling the breath expand from front to back, noticing any sensations again as you breathe. And you might also take an additional notice to see if you feel the breath more strongly in one direction over the other. The next breathing exercise also again comes from the anti-burnout card deck. This is merging with the source. So on a hard day or year, we can forget what brought us into this work in the first place. Reconnect with your core intentions, and you can rekindle that spark of meaning that brought you into clinical work. Begin by feeling the body expanding breath by breath. Gradually narrow the focus of your attention so that it's concentrated in the chest and upper back. the area surrounding your heart. Bring to mind a being who embodies great wisdom and compassion. Perhaps this may be a spiritual figure, a mentor, or a colleague, or a friend. And imagine a beam of light connecting your heart with the heart of this being. As you continue to breathe, feel yourself taking in this being's positive qualities and compassionate energy. Allow the distance between your hearts to shrink gradually until you have become one with the source. Sit quietly for a few minutes and imagine the source of wisdom and compassion infusing your entire body from head to toe. And hold in mind that this source is always present, and bring its wisdom into your work whenever needed. So, just as a side note, I will be taking these two particular exercises and turning them into their own videos for additional mindful practice. Expanding now on this, merging with the source activity, I want to also talk about another way of kind of being able to care for yourself, as remembering that we all have that supervisor or mentor or maybe someone else in our life who has been a source of wisdom and inspiration whenever we've gotten stuck. So this wisdom can still be with you, even if your mentor is not present in person. We often talk about this with our clients, using their voice to be able to help reframe our own when maybe our voice isn't strong enough to be able to carry us through and deal with any kind of intrusive or ruminating thoughts. So this particular exercise is bringing that inner supervisor or that inner mentor kind of into focus as you think about maybe a session or some sort of encounter with a client that didn't go as well as you planned. Notice any resistance that you may have within your body, your heart, or your mind as you recall this memory. If you were channeling that favorite supervisor, what might you say to a supervisee after a tough session? What tone would you use if you were the supervisor? What words or sounds? What facial expressions and body language? And as you have that in mind, try embodying this stance now, but directing that energy towards yourself. Taking that energy and recognizing how that supervisor would respond to someone else and responding to yourself in that way. This is a really great exercise whenever we're feeling that imposter syndrome after especially bad day. Again, caring for ourselves by taking care of when we are not feeling effective within our work, when we're feeling disconnected from our work. So embodying those supervisors or those mentors that we've had over the years and kind of telling ourselves what they would tell us, treating ourselves the way they would treat us. And the last real activity that I want to go over today is just a meditation, loving kindness for clinicians. So this activity may sound a little familiar. We did something similar to this of loving kindness to oneself when we were focusing on our episodes around self-compassion. But this one is really taking the opportunity and repeating different mantras specifically about things that have to do with your clinical work directly and caring for yourself as a clinician specifically, not just caring for yourself as a person. So find a moment either before or after or even during the middle of your busy day and silently and slowly repeat the following wishes for yourself. Hold your attention to their words and impact, and returning gently to them if your mind drifts towards other sensations, thoughts, or images. So may I be able to care for and nurture myself so I can attend to the needs of others with generosity, balance, and presence. Let me repeat that. May I be able to care for and nurture myself so I can attend to the needs of others with generosity, balance, and presence. May I develop equanimity and let go of expectations of healing, fixing, or curing others. Repeating, may I develop equanimity and let go of expectations of healing, fixing, or curing others. May I see my clients with a freshness of mind and an openness of heart. May I see my clients with a freshness of mind and an openness of heart. While I care about their pain and suffering, I cannot make choices for or control my clients' lives. Oh, how many of us need to repeat this during the day? While I care about their pain and suffering, I cannot make choices for or control my clients' lives. May I accept the limitations of others with warmth and compassion, and may I accept my own limits with the same kindness. So, repeating, may I accept the limitation of others with warmth and compassion, and may I accept my own limits with the same kindness. May I see, hear, and know my clients in their wholeness and beauty, not just in their suffering and pain they bring to my office. Once again, may I see, hear, and know my clients in their wholeness and beauty, not just in their suffering and pain they bring to my office. May I see the goodness, intelligence, and vulnerability in my clients today. May I see the goodness, intelligence, and vulnerability in my clients today. And the last one, and this one is one of my favorites out of this whole one. May I let this moment be as it is, not as I want it to be. How important is that? May I let this moment be as it is, not as I want it to be. So I will also add that one to the ongoing videos for additional kind of individualized practice. That one also came from the anti-burnout card deck. And I know that's a lot of different mantras to kind of be able to use today. I encourage you, if you listen to the video when I kind of get it up, maybe jot them down for yourselves. So you can kind of practice them one by one as you need to. It doesn't have to be, an ongoing list that you do throughout the activity. You can just pick one that really resonates for you in the moment as you need it. I don't know about you, but even as I was reading them, some of them were really kind of hitting home with me, kind of through my own work through this week. But also, as I was saying that, there were certain people whose faces were flashing in my mind, going, "Man, I need to write this down and stick it on their desk and remind them of this within their supervision." Because how often do we doubt ourselves, right? The imposter syndrome, once again. And how does that affect our ability to care for ourselves? How does that cause us to see that maybe we are not worthy of that care for ourselves because we didn't do something to deserve it? Um, or if we're not being effective as a counselor, well, then we definitely shouldn't be feeling, burnout, right? Right. So, lastly, just to kind of sum up, one other kind of thing that I think is really important when we're talking about caring for ourselves is just making sure, again, we've talked about this in the one of the earliest podcasts, is take your breaks, drink your water, have something that's refreshing and good for you, even if it's grabbing your favorite coffee, you know, eat throughout your day. Be mindful while you're doing this too, where you're taking the opportunity to actually enjoy the time that you're spending within these breaks. I'll give you an example kind of as we wrap up today, a mindful meal break, looking at the snack and the meal and reflecting on all the natural and human forces that came together in order to produce it and make it available to you. Breathe in and take in the aroma of your food. And when you take that first bite, give your full attention to the experience. Notice the texture, the flavor, and any reactions that might be occurring in your body or mind. And then trying to chew just a little bit slower than normal so you're not kind of gulping down your meal. Pausing for a breath or two in between bites. Maybe even putting your food down in between bites and not just shoveling it in. And when you're done, resolve to use the energy that this food has given you to stay more awake and present for yourself and your clients during the rest of the day. So remember, nourish yourself throughout the day to take care of yourself. And as you nourish yourself physically, you're nourishing yourself mentally and emotionally as well, which is going to give you the energy to get through the day and to get through the work that you are doing. So as you're taking those breaks, make sure that you are doing them mindfully. So once again, Mental Health Awareness Month. What are you doing to make sure that you are caring for yourself, to be aware and having good mental health and wellness yourself? I hope that you found some of the activities we talked about today, helpful for you. Maybe there are things that you might start incorporating in your days moving forward. Please, feel free to share any comments that you may have about anything that I discussed today. I would again love to get any kind of feedback about these episodes and what you found helpful, and also anything that you may want to see kind of moving forward. As we're kind of moving along, we've gotten probably about halfway through what I was kind of really expecting to do with this particular podcast. I really want to kind of continue focusing forward on additional episodes, looking at the things that we do to bring our enjoyment back into the work. Again, kind of looking at maybe a little bit more along the lines of imposter syndrome, but also that disengagement that we get as we are experiencing burnout, some of the disenchantment that we start to experience as we're doing our work, where we just kind of start to feel like we're just there to collect a paycheck, or we're just there to kind of get through the day and then just crash afterwards, and we stop losing that drive and that passion that really brought us into this field to begin with. And also really being able to explore empathic attunement and how we can be mindful of that and be able to kind of care for ourselves as we're using those skills within our members. Because of course, empathic attunement is a highly effective tool within therapy and counseling, because we are spending that time kind of noticing the client's affect. We're, vicariously feeling what they're feeling, which can lead us in, kind of a negative direction if we take on that emotion ourselves. So how to protect ourselves from that empathy that we may be feeling, and that total attunement that we have within it, so that we can continue to communicate with them and engage with them appropriately and providing effective treatment without getting stuck kind of in their stuff. And really being able to have the appropriate ability to respond the way we need to, without again becoming overwhelmed, just because we are empathetic. This is what we need within our field, that unconditional positive regard and the person-centered approach. But if we're not careful and we're not taking care of ourselves, it can overwhelm us, and that's what leads to issues within vicarious trauma, compassion fatigue, and eventually burnout. But overall, I just kind of look forward to any comments or suggestions that you may have and what you would like to see as this podcast continues to move forward. Thank you once again for joining me again today. I look forward to seeing you all again next time. Until then, take care.